On the morning of June 16th, 2008, there were three people in the house of Casey Anthony. Her daughter Kaylee, her, and George Anthony. Cindy had gone to work. This is a real simple case of murder. The idea that this was an accident is not just false, it's a complete lie by Jose Baez, who absolutely knows from sitting in the deposition that all of you can read, it's online, that Dr. Weitz and Dr. Danziger explained that at 9 o'clock in the morning, George busted into Casey's room saying, where's Kaylee, where's Kaylee, we gotta find Kaylee. They ran around frantically looking for Kaylee. She had already been murdered by George. Now, Casey looked in the pool. Kaylee was not in the pool. She came back into the house, and then George came in with Kaylee in his arms, soaking wet. His sleeves were wet. That's all. In other words, he didn't dive in the pool to get her out of the bottom. He just dunked her in the pool and told Casey about her mother being angry and that he would take care of it. Okay? Now, here's the big question. Should George worry about Cindy being angry more than worry about going to prison for murder? Huh? Is that what Casey should worry about? Oh my God, my mother's going to be really angry now because Kaylee's dead, and I'm the mother supposed to be watching her, and she drowned in the pool. She didn't drown in the pool. She was dunked in the pool after she was already dead. So why would Baez make this ridiculous nitwit claim that it was an accident? Because if there was an accident, they're not going to ditch the body in the woods and go to jail for murder or be accused of murder. And the funny and stupid thing here in the United States is Prosecutor Ashton, who would lie about anything actually, creating this nitwit story about the duct tape and the chloroform and the computer and the sticker. He didn't even think to refute this nitwit notion that this was an accident. Because if there was an accident, that kid wouldn't have been dumped and hidden in the woods. And George Anthony going around collecting money from as many people as he could fleece to pay for an investigator to search for Kaylee because she supposedly was kidnapped or something. They don't even know. Yeah, well, they do know. You see? And this is the problem that needs to be looked at carefully, hopefully, by people watching this YouTube, and then hopefully sending it all over to their friends and associates by email so that they could actually consider the idea that, yeah, Casey didn't call for 31 days. That's the big deal here. It is a big deal. There's no doubt about that. I'm not minimizing the fact that she didn't contact police right away and say, hey, my father just murdered my kid. Right now. Come over here. Right now. There's nobody else here. Okay? We don't have to look anywhere for the murderer. He's right here, George Anthony. But she didn't. Why didn't she? Because just like Dr. Weitz and Dr. Danziger said, she went into complete shock. Okay? She didn't expect to have her daughter dead on June 16th. This was a complete out of the blue shock. So that's how it reacted in her head. And she kowtowed to George just like she'd been doing from her as an 8-year-old kid being molested by George. Hiding that, appearing like everything was fine and dandy, going to school, associating with her friends. Okay? This was her life. And guess what? It's still her life. She's hunkered down, worried about somebody bashing her brains in or killing her, because all of you people don't understand what actually happened in the trial, and not in the trial, but in the deposition. And the fact that Baez and Cheney Mason didn't call these psychiatrists to testify, the fact that they didn't just stop the music at the deposition, and when they should have confronted Ashton and Burdick and say, okay, you got the wrong suspect, that's for sure. So now go arrest George Anthony, because he's the only other possible suspect on the planet who murdered Kaylee. She didn't die in an accidental pool drowning. She was murdered. His motive was shutting her up because she would get him for molesting her. She wouldn't make believe everything was hunky-dory like Casey did. So now the only alternative is if the FBI will prosecute George, because the Florida State Attorney will definitely not do it. They don't want to divulge and expose themselves for this witch hunt, complete farce of a trial that they conducted. And that the media completely overwhelmed everybody in this country with one lie after the next throughout the trial, day after day after day. Okay? So this is where we're at right now. Baez's book is coming out next week. It's not going to have any part of what I'm telling you in it. And Baez is a bigger fraud as the prosecutor. I know he got an acquittal. I know. It's hard to actually attack Baez now. That's for sure. But that's neither here nor there to me, because justice is the issue, not Baez, not Cheney Mason. Justice. Casey Anthony needs some justice, because until George Anthony is convicted in a court of law and sentenced, she has no chance to convince people that they were dead wrong about the 31-day deal, and no matter what anybody else would have done. That's just what happened. And it's the result of a mental breakdown, a shock, and that's what happened. So let's try to rectify this problem, please. Let's look into it and think.